Hey, John here. Here's lick of the day number 57. It's a Lydian alternate and sweep picking lick. As usual, you have a link to the tabs in the description below and also by clicking here on the screen. I'm going to start by playing it once slowly and then break it down. We start on the 10th fret. No, we don't. We start on the 8th fret of the high E string. Alright, so this uses the Lydian scale, and the Lydian scale, if you're not familiar, is like a major scale, but the 4th scale degree is raised up a half step. So we get a sharp 4. That's the only difference. So we start here on the 8th fret and play this string skipped arpeggio, you could call it, because it basically outlines the C major triad with some added notes. So the C major triad would just be that on these two strings. You have the 3rd, the root, 5th and the 3rd again, but then we add the sharp 4, which is the quintessential Lydian note, and we also add the 2nd here. So, and play this kind of figure. So this shape really gives you the sound of both the scale and also the chord we're in right now, the 1 chord here, C major. So the sequence that I'm using goes like this. We're gonna start with a downstroke on the 8th fret of the high E string, and then we're gonna go down to the G string and play 12, 11, 9, and then back. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we go back here and play another 6-note pattern. It's gonna go like this. We're gonna use 8, 10, and 12. We're gonna go 8, 12, 10, and then 8, 10, 12. So if we number the notes from left to right, 1, 2, 3, we have 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. So again, put them together. Then we just move it up to the next step of the scale. So everything moves up 1 scale step. And when we do that, we get a D major triad. So we got this thing again. And this major triad built from the 2nd scale degree is very important because that distinguishes the whole thing from the major scale, for example. Because the note that we get here is the raised 4th. So if we put that back to the normal 4th, you basically would get a minor triad if you would just harmonize the major scale. So you would have a 1 major chord and then a 2 minor chord. But the actual note that we changed, like I said before, is the 4th, moving up to the sharp 4, which turns this 2nd chord into a major chord as well. So that's a very telltale sign of a Lydian scale when you have 2 major triads, the 1 major triad and the 2 major triad, like this, next to each other. So that's a great way of getting the Lydian sound. But we have some added notes here as well, and in relation to the chord of D, that would be the 2nd again, and also the 4th. But in relation to the actual key of C Lydian, this whole arpeggio gets you, so yeah, on the G string you would have sharp 4, 5, 6, and on the high E string here you would have 2, 3, and sharp 4. But the sequence will be the same here, so. So once we've done that, we're gonna go straight into this C major arpeggio. So we're coming from here. So this looks like this: 15, 12, 13, 12. And then we have 14, 15, 10. So it's a 5-string arpeggio, and we're also going to repeat the top 3 strings when we come back. So we go down, starting with a downstroke, down, pull up, 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 down, hammer, down, 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 up, pull up, down, down, down. And then we move the whole thing up 2 frets to the D major. So again, we get this this movement between the 1 major chord and 2 major chord for that Lydian sound. So, but this is very easy to remember because it's exactly the same fingering, just 2 frets up. And after that, well, I don't repeat the top here, just go down, or go up, sorry. Back to the top, and then I play basically 17, 15, 14. Then I bend 17 to 19. And what that gives you is this, the Lydian sound again. So you can really hear that when you have the drone in the background. So if you re-listen to the lick again, played against that drone, or you do it yourself slowly, you will really hear what I'm talking about. So, moral of the story, if you want a Lydian sound, really focus on nailing that collar note, the sharp 4. All right, once more, all together. Right, practice-wise, I would highly recommend that you divide this up into 2 different sections, meaning the alternate pick section and the swept section. The alternate picking thing, you can of course just work on it as it is. You can just loop it like that, and then move it up. You can sit there for a while for each one, and then keep going if you want. But another thing that I really like to do, and you probably know by this point if you've been watching these videos, is breaking it down into a purely mechanical pattern, so I don't have to worry about, you know, adapting to any specific key or scale fingering. Because if you can't play it mechanically, meaning you can't play it with just a sort of dummy fingering, meaning let's say we take 1, 2, 3 and we apply the whole shape to those fingers, and then do that with the remaining 3 fingerings, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, and then 2, 3, 4. If you can't do that at the speed that you want to be able to play it at, you probably won't be able to do it with the, or I could actually say you won't be able to do it in the actual scale. Because if you can't get the actual mechanics down, why would you be able to all of a sudden just play it with changing fingerings and all that stuff? I would say that with the exception of maybe 2, 3, 4, because that's, I love using that for practice because it really helps you strengthen this part of the hand, which most people have trouble with, and it really can balance your hand out nicely, so I always include that. But if you have trouble, you know, just doing this with 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, you're not ready to play the entire thing up to the tempo yet. But above all, I just think it's a good thing to put into your practice schedule. Not necessarily the sequence, but this way of practicing, because you really make sure that you balance your left hand while you're also working on that particular picking sequence. So try that if you haven't done it already. For the sweep picking thing, that's where I approach things a bit differently. I tend to work on the actual shapes that I'm going to be using, of course, because they're quite specific. And believe it or not, it's mostly a left hand problem when it comes to the sweep picking, because most people can do this much faster than they can actually do it with the using the left hand in sync with it. So I try to make the most of my time by actually working on the shapes. And also there's not a million shapes either. You have basically for any type of setup, meaning a specific notes per string. So for the 5 string, for example, you have 2 notes on the high E string, then you have 1 note, 1 note, 1 note, and then 2 notes here as well. For any chord type, you will only have as many variations as you have inversions. And for a triad, you basically have the root position, first inversion and second inversion. And that's the only thing you can do if you keep it to the specific fingering. So there's not an endless amount of work on there, so I tend to do that instead. But for this thing specifically, if you want to learn this and you don't really care about anything else, you can just take these shapes and just move them around the fretboard. Up and down, and again, be a bit careful when you come closer to the tuning pegs here, because it will get quite stretchy after a while, and you don't want to repeat things that are too stretchy, because that will definitely hurt your hands in the long run. So keep it at anywhere where you feel comfortable and you don't feel too stressed out stretching wise. All right, if you made it this far, I assume that you like what I do here, so please hit like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, just post them below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.